It's so the brief history of the band for folks that don't know, you came out with that record 1991?
91. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then put out another one a few years later, and then you went and busted up just when things were heating up, and took a bunch of years off.
Yeah, but almost 6 years off, and then put it back together. And as Rod said the other day, we've been together longer this time than we were the first time. So,
yeah. So during the layoff, I mean, you guys had been hearing about people were still enjoying the record and people were buying them, I guess more than even they were when you were together, it seemed, right? So was there, how did you get pressured into playing together, or did it sort of just come together naturally?
I wouldn't say it wasn't pressure. There was constantly a voice saying, "Why didn't you guys do this? Why didn't you guys do this?" And different people were sort of interested in us trying it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until after about 5.5 years that a promoter in Toronto named Elliot Lefkoe said to us and gave us a sort of a proposal of a bunch of shows we could do to and come back and do them properly. That we said, okay, well, we'll sit down and talk about it, because I think
actually, Steve, I don't want to unveil this on Winnipeg Radio, but no, Elliot had called John and I about 3 different years in a row.
Oh, really?
And
I didn't know that.
See, because the band wasn't really talking to each other, right?
Yeah.
So our former manager in Vancouver and Elliot Lefkoe, who was a promoter in Toronto, had called me and had called the bass player for about 3 years in a row, and we had just, like, out of the gate said, no, forget it, there's no way it's going to happen.
Right.
And then so there was pressure definitely for a few years, but then that last year, I don't know why we decided to take it to the band, but we at some point had sort of loosened up enough about the idea to bring it to the band and discuss it, which led to getting together to have brunch and talk about it.
Right.
Which is a big thing people do in Toronto. Apparently not anywhere else is brunch, but but we went and just discussed it together, and that was like every step of the way was very awkward. It was like having being a newborn again, because every step was sort of like people sort of looking at each other suspiciously across the table.
Yeah.
And then when everything just seemed like, well, this just seems too easy and too relaxed, and all the good stuff from back in the day seems to be here, but none of that tension.
Right.
We just then took it to a rehearsal. And then that sounded really well. The first rehearsal sounded terrible, but it felt really good.
Yeah.
And then, so every step of the way was like that. Well, let's have a rehearsal. Well, then let's do these shows.
Right.
And we had no intention of doing anything more than those shows, but
right.
And then every step just felt so good that we thought, well, going to the studio can't be. We had an opportunity to go in the studio and record 3 songs that were added to a double live disc we did.
Yep.
So that was kind of a no pressure way to test out how it would be in the studio, and so everything that was my read on it. It was like that every step was sort of greeted with suspicion, but then quickly became easy.
I know you guys are certainly not in this for the money, so I know that there must have been some sort of, we don't want to be seen as just going out there because we can make money as the lowest of the low. You had to have some justification for doing it, I would imagine.
Well, I think after the 6 shows that we did as a reunion, it became that we started to add new stuff to the set, and it's funny though, there is definitely a perception that bands doing this sort of thing are doing it for the money, and
But some bands are doing it for the money.
Some bands are, but at this level, no, we're not doing it for the money.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it'd be nice to have some money. It'd be nice to, but
right.
It's
I mean, even in '94, when people talk about how we broke up when we were, on the threshold of blowing way up and everything. I mean, as far as we were concerned, we built it as a grassroots thing from '91 on. Like, we had come across touring and we worked really hard. Like, there were years, I think there was a year where we clocked like 250 shows in a year. Mm-hmm. So we had always worked really hard at it. By the time the success was kind of catching up to us a little in '93, '94, we felt that we'd been working hard for a very long time.
Yeah.
And we had felt that we'd been quite successful in Canada for quite a long time.